with me? Will we leave behind the innocent to grieve? On their own, on the run, when their lives have only begun. These could be our daughters and our sons. And just like a drum, I can hear their hearts beating. I know my God won't let them be defeated. Every child has a dream to belong and be loved. Boys become kings, girls will be queens, wrapped in your majesty. When we love the least of these, then they will be brave and free. Shout your name in victory. When we love the least of these, when we love the least of these. Break our hearts once again. Help us to remember when we were only children hoping for a friend. Won't you look around? These are the lives that the world has forgotten, waiting for doors of our hearts and our homes to open. Boys become kings, girls will be queens, wrapped in your majesty. When we love the least of these, then they will be brave and free. Shout your name in victory. When we love the least of these, when we love the least of these. If not us, who will be like Jesus to the least of these? If not us, tell me who will be like Jesus to the least of these. Boys become kings, girls will be queens, wrapped in your majesty. When we love. with me? Will we leave behind the innocent to grieve? On their own, on the run, when their lives have only begun. These could be our daughters and our sons. And just like a drum, I can hear their hearts beating. I know my God won't let them be defeated. Every child has a dream to belong and be loved. Boys become kings, girls will be queens, wrapped in your majesty. When we love the least of these.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Good morning. It's King's Report for Wednesday, June 21st, 2017. And this is the 8th year of Changi, 5th month and 27th day by the heavenly calendar. I'm Tim Elder sitting in for the second king of Chanukuk Hyungjin Moon this morning and giving you this English language at King's Report, which we began at 6:30 on Wednesdays. So we spend the first hour and a half giving the message to the Korean audiences. Start as usual with the weather this morning. The Cheonrygung area right now is 58 degrees and cloudy, mostly cloudy. And, yesterday we had a really beautiful day. We had lots of sunshine, not so much wind. The temperature was just right. Humidity was not too high. And it was really a nice day. And it looks like today we'll have also a pretty nice day, going up to 82 degrees, although there may be some thunderstorms in some spots. And so as the king prepares to go to Denver, it seems that the weather is really improving, and it's really great. And I want to then go to the Rima for this morning. And my Rima this morning is Mark 11, verses 20. We're going to start here at 29 to 33. And Jesus answered and said unto them, I will also ask of you one question, and answer me, and I will tell you by what authority I do these things. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or of men? Answer me. And they reasoned with themselves, saying, If we shall say from heaven, he will say, Why then did ye not believe him? But if we shall say of men, they feared the people. For all men counted John, that he was a prophet indeed. And they answered and said unto Jesus, We cannot tell. And Jesus answering saith unto them, Neither do I tell you by what authority I do these things. So it seems that Jesus also had a Q&A session then about 2,000 years ago. That's interesting to me. And I also wanted to give you a Rima from the Cheonseonggyeong. I'm in Book 12, Chapter 2, and these are words the Father spoke in 1991. The whole ocean providence. I've after 40 some years now in the church, the really big thing that I really missed was the ocean providence. I was in Korea, I guess, during all that time, and I really envy the American and European brothers and sisters for being able to go out on boats and to fish. I love the ocean, but I never had that opportunity. But here, Father is talking about the ocean providence, and people like us already know where the fish can be found when we go fishing. Most fish tend to search for food in the mornings and evenings. Then, since they have eaten at lunchtime, they are simply idle. The fishing spot should not be too deep. One area should be a bit deep, and the other area should be with a flat bottom. Fish tend to escape to deep places in order to hide. Also, even if they come out and idle about, they will play around where the ocean bed is flat. That is the situation in late morning. However, in the afternoon, since the fish are eating again, I say to myself, oh, I know exactly what kinds of fish are here by merely looking at the spot. I wanted to focus on the Bible reading this morning, where Jesus is doing a Q&A session with a rather hostile audience. The to the Jewish establishment, the chief priests and the scribes and the elders, and they want to ask him a question in order to trap him, and so Jesus actually traps them. What do you suppose the chiefs, priests and scribes and the elders wanted to actually, what was their honest opinion, their honest answer to Jesus' question, whether the baptism of John, was it from heaven or of men? Well, obviously they wanted to say that it was of men, because they did not, they wanted the people to follow their ecclesiastical organization and not John. And John was a kind of a person who was working outside of that, outside of their power structure. And so they did not want people to follow John. They believed that only what they gave was from heaven, and that what John gave was not from heaven. But they were afraid to express themselves in front of so many people, and that's why they decided to finally to say that they cannot tell, that well, I don't know, we don't know what John was doing, and so they refused to answer, and so Jesus also refused to answer. Of course, Jesus' honest answer was that what he was doing was from heaven. He represented the authority of heaven. He was the only begotten Son of God, and he was the way, the truth, and the life, and it was only through him that people could receive salvation. So it was by heaven's authority that he was speaking, but he refused to tell them this. Because they also refused to answer his question. The chief priests and the scribes and the elders were always seeking to trap Jesus, but Jesus was able to avoid their traps because of the support that he was getting from the people, and they were not or because of the support that John was getting. In this case, he's using the support that John was getting from the people. But as Jesus' support waned among the people, then the Jewish establishment was able to capture Jesus and crucify him, which is what they wanted to do all along. This Rima tells me many things right now that I perhaps do not want to go into in detail on this broadcast, but truly it is the degree to which people unite with the Messiah that the Messiah can be protected from the forces of Satan. If the Jewish people had united with Jesus, or even not the entire nation, but a significant portion of the Jewish people had united with Jesus, the Roman soldiers would not have been able to go to the Garden of Gethsemane to arrest him, even if the chief priests wanted that to happen. It's really the support from lowly people, individual people, and common people that protects the Messiah so that he can act with the authority of heaven. In other words, it's the people who are in the Cain position that protect the Messiah. The Messiah, of course, is the able figure to all the rest of the world, all the rest of humanity who are in the Cain position. But Father says, so the able figure, of course, his responsibility is to establish the vertical connection with God. But Father has said that the vertical axis cannot procreate, cannot spread, because it comes down to just a point. And he has said that a point cannot multiply. So what it needs is, there needs to be a plane or a line first, and then that can be turned into a plane. So that responsibility belongs to Cain. In other words, to unite with the Abel figure and to unite with that point to create a second point. And that second point then exists on the horizontal axis that begins with the Abel figure's vertical axis, so that it is that point, for example, on the graph where the x and y axes come into are intersecting. So when the Cain figure produces a second point and connects with the Abel figure, that creates a line. And when the other Cain figures unite, then those points also united with the Abel figure also create lines, and that creates a plane. And that is how God's authority, that is how heaven's authority can expand on this earth. So that is why the true Father, when he came to this earth as the Lord of the Second Advent, the Christ at the Second Advent, needed people to unite with him. Because, in other words, that he could not do it alone. Because he needed people to unite with him. Most of all, of course, that would have been the bride that would unite with him. That she would unite, and then that would be a point. But also that the people around Father would unite with him. Not just the brides of the Messiah, but also the men would also unite and become the sons of God, and to unite with the Messiah in that point. That is how the authority of heaven could spread throughout the world. So also today we have the second king of Cheonryuk, Hyungjin Moon, on this earth as True Father's representative body and inheritor, and he exists on that point. He represents the vertical axis. Today, the God of night, True Father, is in heaven and in the spirit world as the God of night, and Hyungjinim is on earth as the God of day. The two are connected through this vertical axis, but that vertical axis cannot multiply unless there is a Cain figure next to him that is uniting with him, and of course that is Kukjinim. That is why Father needed to be sure that there was a Cain-Abel relationship in his family before he went to spirit world. And he made that declaration on June 5th, 2012, almost exactly 3 months before his cosmic ascension at a ceremony in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is because Kukjinim is united with his younger brother, Hyungjinim, that the vertical axis that comes down to a point can then be multiplied along the horizontal axis. And the rest of us are also uniting with Hyungjinim. We also represent points that on the horizontal axis, and we represent a plane. That plane is still small, but it is a plane that is centered on the vertical axis. And so it can only expand. It can only expand as time goes on, because it is united with True Father's lineage, Without that lineage, there is nothing. Without that lineage, you cannot have God, you cannot have Jesus, you cannot have True Father. And that is why this plane, centering on the second king of Cheonryuk, is expanding and will continue to expand and cannot be stopped. I have many other thoughts that maybe I can share more privately, but those are my thoughts on this Rima this morning from Mark chapter 11. All right, let's take a break now, and we'll come back and start covering the news of the day.
Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Carr Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Carr Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Carr Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Carr Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit carr.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report. At the beginning of the Korean King's Report, I always bow to the Korean members because that's the custom in Asia. And maybe that's less of a custom in America and in the West, but after doing that for an hour and a half, I sort of get into the habit of it. But anyway, I'm bowing to you. Thank you for joining us this morning. I appreciate that for this King's Report on Wednesday, June 21st. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second king of Cheonryuk, Hyungjin Moon. So the big news this morning, at least, for people who love this country, people who love God's providence, people who are hoping for a smooth as possible pass into Cheonryuk. The big news this morning is the victory of the Republican candidate in both the Georgia and North Carolina special elections. When President Trump appointed his cabinet, he appointed some of the members from the House of Representatives and the Senate, some Republicans from Congress. And when they took those jobs in the president's cabinet and in the White House, they had to resign from their House seats, from their Senate seats. And so special elections have been held. And now 5 special elections have been held in order to select new representatives and senators from those, especially senators also. Yes, senators also from those states. And 5 elections have been held, and now the Republicans are 5 wins and no losses in those elections. Now, of course, when the president chooses someone from the Congress, he's careful to choose a person from a district that where his advisors tell him will probably be won by another Republican in the election. But the 6th district of Georgia yesterday was a kind of a special case because the Democrats really, really thought, they really, really believed, they were just with all their heart, they believed that they had a good chance of winning that seat. Why? Well, because for one thing, was a district that President Trump won by only by a very small margin, I think just 1.5% or something like that, against Hillary Clinton in the November presidential election. And it's in the suburbs of Atlanta, where the education level is comparatively high and the income level is relatively high. And, the Democrats think that all Trump supporters are, people who walk around in the woods with their rifles and AR-15s and are just a Hicks. And so this is not that kind of a district. So they thought, yeah, these are our people. We can win this. And so they really tried their best. They gave it their best shot. And they poured in a huge amount of money. Democratic supporters, Democrats from California and from Massachusetts sent a lot of contributions to the Democratic candidate in the 6th district of Georgia for this election. And including that money that the Democrats spent and the money that the Republicans spent and the money that other organizations spent on this election, all added up to about $50 million, we're being told. That's a lot of money. In fact, it is more money than has ever been spent on any House election in the history of the United States. So the Democrats really tried hard. And yesterday the newspapers were saying that the polls are that the Republican candidate only has a 1-point lead. It's within the margin of error. Yeah, wow, yeah. Democrats can win this. Yeah. Well, we wake up this morning and the Republican candidate won 52-48. Here let's look at the Wall Street Journal article. Republicans held on to a hotly contested U.S. House seat in Georgia on Tuesday, beating back an aggressive challenge that showed the Democrats' inability to turn opposition to Donald Trump's presidency into electoral gains. Republican Karen Handel, a former Georgia Secretary of State, beat Democrat Jon Ossoff, a one-time congressional aide, in the most expensive House race in history and the most significant test of the two parties' political strength since Mr. Trump's election. In nearly complete results, Mrs. Handel had almost 53% of the vote to just over 47% for Mr. Ossoff, the Associated Press reported. Okay, I thought it was 52-48. Wall Street Journal is saying 53-47. But anyway, that's same result. In winning the seat, Republicans overcame a Democratic advantage in campaign spending and demonstrated that Mr. Trump retained political capital in the district. The president, Vice President Mike Pence, and other party luminaries visited the Atlanta suburbs to support Mrs. Handel's candidacy. The result was a big blow to Democrats who were hungry. Oh man, they were just starving. I mean, they were just thirsting, starving. They were just desperate for a victory to demonstrate that grassroots anti-Trump energy gives them a shot at taking control of the House in the 2018 midterm elections. Democrats earlier this year lost two other contested House special elections in Kansas and Montana. In a special election Tuesday in South Carolina, Republican Ralph Norman held the House seat vacated by Mick Mulvaney, Mr. Trump's budget director, but by a far closer margin than expected. Mr. Norman defeated Democrat Archie Parnell, a former Goldman Sachs executive, by less than 4 percentage points. Mr. Mulvaney won the district by 20 points in November, and Mr. Trump carried it by 18 points. The twin victories mean that Republicans are 4 for 4 in House special elections that are being widely viewed for signals to each party's prospects next year in a battle for control of the House, which is now held by the Republicans. Georgia had been considered Democrats' best shot at a win. They say 4 for 4, but also there was one Senate election as well, and so they are 5 for 5, I believe. In her victory speech, Ms. Handel offered a special thanks to the President of the United States, who had come to the district for a fundraiser and sent supportive Twitter messages in the closing days of the campaign. After her victory, Mr. Trump congratulated her in another tweet. We can see this here. The president tweeting, "Congratulations to Karen Handel on her big win in Georgia's 6th. Fantastic job. We are all very proud of you." And then also with regard to South Carolina, the president tweeted late last night, "Ralph Norman ran a fantastic race to win in the great state of South Carolina's 5th district. We are all honored by your success tonight." And then he said, well, the special elections are over, and those that want to make America great again are 5-0. All the fake news, all the money spent equals 0. And then just 30 minutes ago, he's up early, or maybe he hasn't gone to bed yet, I don't know. Democrats would do much better as a party if they got together with Republicans on health care, tax cuts, security. Obstruction doesn't work. That really points out what commentators are beginning to say, is that the Democrats' platform is really the presidential election was stolen from us. Hillary should have won, and she was entitled to the presidency. We are entitled to run the country, and it's all the Russians' fault, and it's all because of these racists in America that we've lost this election. Well. And so that's why they really targeted the Atlanta suburbs in this election, because they thought that, here the income level is higher and the education level is higher. It's not country hicks. And so we have a chance of, these are our people. We can really win this election here. But they lost. And so now we'll see what they do. We'll have to see what they do. But clearly, the Democrats need to face reality, not just the Democrats, but also people like McCain. McCain also has not accepted that Trump is his president. You can see this, and he's been. We covered an article yesterday in the King's Report that pointed out that he's being funded in part by George Soros and these kinds of elites, and so McCain also and other rhino Republicans like him still do not accept the authority of the president, do not accept the legitimacy of the presidential election. They fought against him. The Bushes fought against Trump in that election, and the McCains and the Ryans and the others have fought against Trump in the election. Not just the Democrats, but these rhino Republicans also. Rhino means Republican in name only, R-I-N-O, rhino. They also need to accept the fact that Donald J. Trump is the president of the United States, and they need to start working with him. And that, I think, is the message of the Georgia by-election. Of course, they will make up all kinds of excuses, but there's all this opposition, all this rioting in the streets, shooting of Republican congressmen. It's not turning into electoral victories. You think that Donald Trump's supporters are going to back down because some crazy guy is being let loose to shoot a Republican congressman? No, they're not going to back down. They're not going to back down. In fact, we see that the opposite is the case. Really, it's time for all Americans to accept Donald J. Trump as the president of the United States. It's been what? It's June now, and it's been almost 5 months since his inauguration. And a lot of his legislative agenda is blocked in the House and the Senate, not only because of the Democrats, but also because of rhino Republicans such as Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House. Paul Ryan also needs to look at this election and understand that he needs to start working with the president. Paul Ryan didn't get Karen Handel elected. It was President Trump that got her elected. It was his support for her, his tweets for her that supported her. And also, in her campaign also, she did not shy away from the president. And so we need to understand that this is the course that this country is set on. And whether Democrats like it or not, they can continue screaming and yelling all they want, but this is the course that America is set on. The American people made a choice last November, and they are sticking with that choice. That's the lesson that I think we can learn from this Georgia election. That gives me a lot of hope. It gives me a lot of hope for this country because it shows that America is choosing sovereignty, and it is sticking with that choice. And it is not being intimidated by the media, not being intimidated by the Democrats or the rhino Republicans or other establishment figures, not being intimidated at all. And in fact, is continuing to support the president. And so now it's time for some of those legislative projects to start moving in the Senate and in the House. All right, let's take a break now and come back in a minute with more news from a Chunyu Group perspective.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Carr Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit carr.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Wednesday, June 21st, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second king of Cheongguk, Moon Young-jin. And we're going through the headlines now. Of course, the top left on a Drudge, Ossoff, Trump Slayer crossed out. He falls, Ossoff falls. Most expensive House race in history. Republican wins South Carolina House seat as well. And then we have a beautiful picture of our favorite anyway, Nancy Pelosi, Dems lose again, GA seat slips away. And then here on the left column, we have South Korea says crashed North Korea drone, grave provocation. U.S. spy satellites detect activity at nuclear test site. North Korea has been flying drones over South Korea to take photographs of the, especially of the area where South Korea or the United States military deployed the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Missile System. And South Korea either shot it down or it crashed, and they're referring to this as a provocation. And U.S. spy satellites detect activity at nuclear test site. That can't be good. The president of South Korea is coming to the United States and visiting Washington, I think, on the 29th and 30th of this month, just a week or so from now. And, you know, North Korea likes to have a sort of a show of force whenever these kinds of whenever people are talking about them, they like to kind of shoot off missiles or have a nuclear test. And so I'm kind of wondering if maybe they're planning to have their sixth nuclear test around the time of President Moon Jae-in's visit to the United States. Wow, that would be quite a situation then. Continuing on the headlines, the USA anxiety levels climb faster than rest of the world. Update: Illinois careens into financial meltdown like a banana republic. We can go into that. Daniel Day-Lewis quits acting. O.J. Simpson parole hearing set. Ex-NFL player comes out as gay, says he considered suicide. Financier found dead after gay bondage hookup went bad. Wet towel stuffed in mouth. Inside Apple global war on leakers. Former NSA agents screening bigger than TSA. Venezuela dares USA to send in the Marines. Are they daring or are they pleading? I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Men more likely to get fat if they're married. Bomber blows self up at Brussels station. Allahu Akbar. Of course, you know, we're in the final week of Ramadan right now. I have a few days left, and so they're trying to get those double points. China opens gates to U.S. beef imports. The end of car ownership. Here comes helicopters on demand. LA Fire Department could soon seek federal permission to fly drones. Independent group releases report on Seth Rich murder investigation. Death does not appear to be random homicide. And we can go into that. Unarmed Russian jet comes within 5 feet of the U.S. recon jet. USA signals involvement in Syria could escalate. Why ratcheting up tensions? Fighter jet shoots down drone. The situation in Syria, I really hope that someone can stop this situation. That we definitely don't want to go to war with Russia over Syria. Syria is definitely not worth it. Saudi king removes crown prince from post. Dems suddenly worried Trump impeachment could backfire. Suddenly, now they're figuring it out. Sessions hires lawyer. State Department new Hillary probe. Yes, State Department is now probing Hillary. Orlando's Confederate statue dismantled for move after public outcry. Memphis activists attempt to dig up general's grave. Daycare teacher hogtied 4-year-old with duct tape. Women stripping campaign against billboard advertising. Student killed self after university wrongfully punished him over gay slur. Yeah. I'm really shocked that this kind of a suicide would occur. Summer begins. Yes, that's right. Today is this morning, a few hours ago, was the summer solstice. And so I think today is the longest day of the year. It's Cindy, tropical storm warning for Louisiana, Texas coast, forecast cone. And Phoenix heat wave generates record energy demand. Death Valley restaurant closes. Vegas ghost town as temps soar. Puerto Rico families flee. Foreclosure surge. Axe-throwing venues gaining in popularity. That sounds like fun. Star Wars Han Solo movie loses directors mid-shoot. Update, Yellowstone supervolcano hit by 400 quakes in a week. Cop kills self while driving. Let's look at this Yellowstone thing. 400 quakes in a week. This is a Newsweek article. Updated, Yellowstone supervolcano has been hit by a series of earthquakes with more than 400 recorded since June 12th. The latest was recorded on Monday, June 19th. With a magnitude 3 earthquake striking 8.6 miles north-northeast of West Yellowstone, Montana. The swarm began last week and on June 15th saw a magnitude 4.5 earthquake take place in Yellowstone National Park. The epicenter of the shock was located in Yellowstone National Park, 8 miles north-northeast of the town of West Yellowstone, Montana. Scientists from the University of Utah said in a statement, the earthquake was reportedly felt in the towns of West Yellowstone and Gardiner, Montana. 464 events have been recorded as of the 19th. Most of those ranged in the magnitude of 0 to 1, with 5 less than 0. Experts at the USGS say the risk of an eruption at Yellowstone supervolcano is low. The current volcano alert level remains normal, and the aviation color code, which provides information on the potential risk to flights, is green, meaning the volcano is in a normal, non-eruptive state. Okay. The probability of a large eruption at Yellowstone in the next year is currently calculated at 1 in 730,000. Well, that's a lot higher probability than winning the lottery, isn't it? 730,000. Anyway, so that's going on there. Let's look at the spy satellite activity of around the North Korean nuclear site, because that is really. I don't know what's going to happen in Yellowstone, but unless supervolcano blows up and just blows up the world, the next thing that we really need to worry about right now is the possibility that North Korea will carry out as a 6th nuclear test, because that will really, I think, send the United States into a situation where it has to act. U.S. spy satellites have detected new activity at North Korea's underground nuclear test site for the first time in several weeks, 2 U.S. officials told CNN. The activity appears to involve some modifications around one of the tunnel entrances to an underground test area. The officials said it is not yet clear if the activity indicates a 6th nuclear test is imminent, but noted there is concern that North Korea could set off a test during Wednesday's visit to Washington by top Chinese diplomats and military officials. Okay, well, I would more likely predict that it will be during Moon Jae-in's trip next week, but CNN can have a different opinion. U.S. officials have known that the site is ready to conduct an underground test for some time. 2 senior U.S. officials with direct knowledge also told CNN that military options for North Korea have recently been updated and will be presented to President Donald Trump for a decision to act if there is a nuclear test. However, there's no indication whether any military response would actually happen. U.S. officials told CNN that if a 6th nuclear test by North Korea were to occur, it would be clear that the existing pressure by China on North Korea is not working. However, other senior U.S. officials said that the administration policy hinges on pressuring North Korea through China. But what happens if China either doesn't want to or can't? This is what President Trump said to Xi Jinping, the president of China, when they met in Mar-a-Lago, Florida, beginning of April. He told President Xi Jinping, listen, if you can't do it or if you don't want to do it, fine, we'll do it. So if the sixth nuclear test demonstrates that China can't do it or doesn't want to do it, then President Trump's option is that the United States will do it. Trump has often cited China, North Korea's longtime ally, as a key player in U.S. efforts to rein in North Korea's quest to develop long-range nuclear missiles. But the U.S. president took to Twitter on Tuesday to offer a grim assessment of China's role in restraining North Korea. And he said, while I greatly appreciate the efforts of President Xi and China to help with North Korea, it has not worked. At least I know China tried. So the use of the past tense there is kind of worrisome. I know China tried. He didn't say, I know China is trying. He said, I know China tried. That is, I would say, very worrying. It would appear to suggest that the president is leaning towards a judgment that the United States needs to act in this situation. And that, of course, is what we've all been trying to avoid, because if the United States attacks North Korea, then there is a high possibility that North Korea will retaliate against South Korea and also U.S. bases in South Korea, and if they can, U.S. bases in Okinawa and on Guam and also in the northern part of Japan. This is what North Korea has threatened, and they appear to have that capability. And hundreds of thousands, it's likely that hundreds of thousands at least of people will die. If there is a war between the United States and North Korea, as long as China stays out, then the war will be over in a week or so, and the United States and South Korea will win, but many, many, many people will die in the process. So now, when the president says, at least I know China tried in the past tense, that to me is a very worrisome thing. So apparently there are some Chinese people coming today, officials coming today. Next week, the South Korean president is coming. I would say that we are in a very sort of a crisis situation right now, where it all hinges on whether North Korea, whether North Korea conducts its sixth nuclear test. From North Korea's point of view, they have to test, because from their point of view, and this is where they're wrong actually, but what they believe is that nuclear weapons guarantee their sovereignty. And they're wrong in that, and I'll get to that in a minute. But and so in order for them to have nuclear weapons and for those nuclear weapons to be operational, they need to go through these tests. The reason they're wrong is that actually nuclear weapons are certain to destroy North Korea's sovereignty. It's interesting to me, I remember when Kook Jinim was traveling around Korea, giving the Strong Korea lectures in, I think it was 2011, 12, maybe back in 2010 as well, I'm not sure, talking about how, at that time, South Korea needed to start strengthening its military in order to defend itself, even without U.S. help. And he would get questions several times. He received questions from people saying, well, are you saying that South Korea should develop nuclear weapons? And he would always answer emphatically, no. He said that if South Korea develops nuclear weapons or acquires nuclear weapons, it will become a target from the entire world. The entire world will criticize South Korea, will isolate South Korea. And actually, South Korea will not be able to maintain its sovereignty in that situation. And that is exactly what's happening with North Korea. North Korea has acquired nuclear weapons, thinking that this will guarantee their sovereignty. They even put it in their constitution that the words "핵 보유국," a country nuclear possessing country, it would be the literal translation. We're not exactly sure what they mean by 핵 보유국. We do know that they possess, some people say, I think, 15 to 20 nuclear warheads that they possess, and they're capable of producing five per year, 5 each year, or something like that. I think that's the current intelligence assessment. They believe that this guarantees our sovereignty. They say that, look at Libya, look at Iraq. These countries were attacked by the United States because they did not have nuclear weapons. If they had had nuclear weapons, then the United States would have dared to attack Libya or to attack to Iraq. So if we are to avoid that same fate, we need to have nuclear weapons. This is their reasoning. But actually, nuclear weapons are about to destroy their sovereignty. They think that because there are 230,000 U.S. citizens living in South Korea, that President Trump will not act. There are millions of Americans living in San Francisco and in Hawaii. President Trump is not going to sacrifice the millions of Americans on the U.S. mainland for the sake of protecting the hundreds of thousands of Americans living in South Korea. It's a grim situation. It's a very grim situation that no one wants. But it is where we are. It is where we are. We hope that diplomatic efforts can resolve the situation, but there is a limit to how far diplomatic efforts can go. And at some point, the United States either has to take military action or agree to submit itself to North Korea's nuclear blackmail. And I don't think that Donald J. Trump is the kind of man who would submit to blackmail. And I don't think that the American people are the kind of people that will submit to blackmail. Anyway, let's continue with this article. Multiple U.S. officials told CNN they are checking on what the president meant in his latest tweet about how China's efforts in North Korea have not worked out, in quotes. One Trump administration official said bluntly they didn't know what the president was referencing when asked what the tweet meant. Another said there was no meeting earlier Tuesday that they believe could have spurred Trump's comment and pushed back on the idea that the tweet could be a hint of something forthcoming, diplomatic or some forthcoming diplomatic or military action. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer painted a rosier picture on Tuesday, telling reporters that the U.S. is continuing to work with China to apply pressure on North Korea, and said the U.S. has seen positive movement with China. Also the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman, to reference this here, also spoke about this tweet, and he was, I think it's a she, and she said that China is continuing to work with North Korea. Of course, a Foreign Ministry spokesman cannot say otherwise. They cannot get up and say, "Yeah, I know we tried, but we failed, so now it's up to the U.S." I mean, they're not going to say that. They always have to say that we're still trying. So Sean Spicer also, I think, is in a similar position. He has to say that we're continuing to try. But the question is, what is the president's judgment? The U.S. will continue to work with them and others to put the appropriate pressure on North Korea to change the behavior of this regime, Spicer said. Asked whether Trump would still consider meeting with Kim Jong-un given the right conditions, Spicer said clearly, we're moving further away, not closer to those conditions being met. All right, let's take a break now, and we'll come back with more news from a Tony perspective.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Carr Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology, it's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Carr Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry, Carr Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Carr Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit carr.com today. Carr Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Carr Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology, it's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Carr Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry, Carr Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Carr Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit carr.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
All right, welcome back, or welcome to the King's Report for June 21st, 2017. We've been doing the live broadcast of the English King's Report for about an hour now, but unfortunately we had some difficulty with the making sure that the proper settings were given, and so you may not have been able to watch it for the past hour. We covered the Georgia by-election, the victory there, and we also covered the situation on the Korean Peninsula, where the U.S. spy satellite is detecting movement around the North Korea nuclear test site. During this final half hour, I'd like to go to the situation in Illinois, where Illinois is careening into financial meltdown, and now not even the lottery, the Mega Millions, and the, what's the other one, the Lotto, are safe. Illinois is grappling with a full-fledged financial crisis, and not even the lottery is safe, with Republican Governor Bruce Rauner warning the state is entering banana republic territory. Facing billions in unpaid bills and pension obligations, the state is hitting a cash crunch that is rare even by Illinois standards. A top financial official just warned 100% of the state's monthly revenue will be eaten up by court-ordered payments. Rauner is calling a special session of the Democrat-led General Assembly in a bid to pass what he hopes will be the first full budget package in almost 3 years. And Illinois will literally lose the lottery if the budget fails. The state lotto requires a payment from the legislature each year. The current appropriation expires June 30th, meaning no authority to pay prizes. In anticipation of a budget deadlock, the state already is planning to halt Powerball and Mega Millions sales. Well, I guess this is why if you win the lottery and they say, okay, you can take it over 20-some years, or you can take a cash payout now, it's always good to take that cash payout because, look, here, the state now is not able to pay cash prizes. It is disappointing that the legislature's inability to pass a budget has led to this development and will result in Illinois lottery players being denied the opportunity to play these popular games, Illinois Lottery Acting Director Greg Smith told Fox News. We're like a banana republic, Rauner said earlier this month, after the General Assembly failed, yet again, to pass a budget package by the regular session deadline. We can't manage our money. the governor has called for a special session starting Wednesday. That would be today. The state so far is operating on a series of stopgap spending packages, but the problems are years in the making, of course. And so now Moody's has downgraded the credit rating of Illinois to the lowest of any state. The current state currently has $130 billion in unfunded pension obligations and a backlog of unpaid bills worth $13 billion. Nobody here in Illinois is considering bankruptcy. First of all, it's not allowed, said Steve Brown, press secretary of Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan. Second of all, it would damage the reputation of the state, and it's just not necessary. U.S. Senator Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth, both Democrat from Illinois, declined to respond to Fox News' request for comment on whether they would consider getting involved in introducing a measure allowing state bankruptcy. Because right now, states are not allowed to go bankrupt, according to U.S. law. The states are required to pay their bills. Bankruptcy, of course, protects from creditors, protects people from creditors when they can't pay their bills. Because if it weren't for bankruptcy, then the creditors could go in and start seizing assets. For an individual, it means that the creditor can seize your house, they can seize your car, they can walk into your house and take your computers or your furniture or whatever you have. And it's avoid that by declaring bankruptcy. Then the court then gives you time to work out a payment system, or where either the creditors will agree to collect just some part of the debt, or they'll give you more time to pay your debt, or something like that. States, by U.S. law, are not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to declare bankruptcy. But now the two senators from Illinois are maybe thinking about going to the Senate and the House to try and change that law so that Illinois can declare bankruptcy. And if they do, that would be the first case. Of course, Puerto Rico just recently went through a similar situation, and that too was technically not a bankruptcy, although it kind of is, because now Puerto Rico is now under the supervision of a court in New York, I believe, where that court in New York is kind of dictating what Puerto Rico can do with its money, because Puerto Rico also has a huge amount of debt, and Puerto Rico is not a state, but so they're going through kind of a bankruptcy type situation without calling it a bankruptcy. But now, after Puerto Rico, we have Illinois. And there are other states and other cities and municipalities around the country that are in a similar situation, because really the United States of course, the United States itself is in a serious situation with its increasing debt. And pretty soon the Congress is going to be asked to increase the debt limit so that the United States can borrow even more money. And Fed chairman after Fed chairman have gone on record saying this is not sustainable. It's unsustainable. And yet the Congress continues to rack up more and more debt. And it's going to collapse pretty soon. On the national level, it's going to collapse, and Illinois is perhaps one sign of that. Illinois is a physical model of what not to do, Representative Peter Roskam, Republican of Illinois, told Fox News while not commenting on the bankruptcy question. This avoidance and behavior toward dealing with our challenges is what leads to the devastating impacts we are seeing today. Yeah, avoidance and behavior towards dealing with our challenges. That's exactly what the federal Congress is doing as well. The Social Security Fund is so much money has been borrowed, quote borrowed unquote, from it that it's not really viable anymore. Just last week, the Illinois comptroller, who is responsible for paying the state's bills, warned the office would be paying out 100% of Illinois' monthly revenue, leaving negative funds for discretionary spending. Don't you love that word, negative funds? That means they haven't got any money. They're in the red. But Rauner claims the Republicans have a new plan that would remedy the state's crippling financial situation. Republicans in the General Assembly have laid out a compromise budget that I can sign, Rauner said, calling it a true compromise. The plan incorporates reforms like property tax relief, term limits, and spending caps, which have caused an ongoing confrontation between Madigan and the governor, one Republican leader told Fox News, adding that the two have been in a stalemate since Rauner took office 2 years ago. Governor Rauner inherited this financial mess when he took office, and his proposals have been met by resentment from the Speaker, Deputy House Republican leader Dan Brady said. Brady added, "We are asking that the Speaker allow for a date and a vote before June 30th. But Brown told Fox News the governor isn't making enough concessions. He's not walking many back. The financial issues are serious enough, and he's forcing things that have nothing to do with state government," Brown said. The biggest problem here is that the governor keeps associating a lot of things that do not have anything to do with the budget. Rauner has pushed for structural reforms, government consolidation, and pension reform, some components that were able to pass on the Senate side. The people and the businesses of Illinois deserve stability, not this ongoing chaos, Senate President John J. Colton, a Democrat, told Fox News. The Illinois State Senate approved a balanced budget before the initial May 31 deadline that matches the governor's spending proposal. See, states are required to balance their budgets. They're required to balance their budgets. That's something that the federal government is not required to do, but states are. And Illinois hasn't been able to do that, and so they haven't had a budget now for quite some time. If the General Assembly fails to pass a budget package, they do have an option to pass another stopgap package, which lawmakers say is an option, but not a good one. "We have a very real deadline looming," said Republican leader Christine Rodogno told Fox News. "The alternative to not finding a compromise will be devastating to Illinois." Fox doesn't go into the fact that there are other states and municipalities that are headed down this road that Illinois is already on. But I guess it makes the news when someone says, "Oh, we're not going to be able to pay the prizes for the lotto." That's, I guess, the lotto really is it's called a voluntary tax on the poor, and it really is. But that really, I guess, what people are familiar with. And so when someone says, "Oh, Illinois can't pay the prizes," then people pay attention. What? Not that any of us have won those prizes, but presumably someone is collecting those prizes. But not if they can't balance their budget. Not if they can't balance their budget. Let's go to the Breitbart News headlines. Georgia special election live wire handle 51.9, also 48.1, 52 to 48. Dems go bust, biggest bet of all time, fails in Georgia's 6th district. Surprise race called early for Republican. And then here, again, polling humiliation. Again, Trump scores a victory. Again, massive failure for Hollywood left. As you know, go back and I hope we'll be able to give you the recording of the first hour of our English broadcast this morning, where we talked about how the Democrats really went all in on this election. The MAGA mandate is stronger than ever. Big league. Congratulations, Handel, for big win. Hollywood melts down. Group hug. You get in. Laughing my ass off. Kellyanne Conway celebrates humiliating Democratic defeat. Big Pinkerton, 5 takeaways on what the Republican special election wins mean for the Trump agenda. Republican Karen Handel wins special election in Georgia's 6th district. Watch crowd chants, "This is what democracy looks like" at Ossoff Party. Breitbart News Daily, Georgia on my mind. And New Jersey daycare workers ran Fight Club for Kids. Shock poll, Muslim ban gains popularity. CNN's Lemon, a Republican winning in Georgia, shouldn't be breaking news. Well, it is breaking news because the Democrats tried so hard to take it. The Democrats made it breaking news. Tiger Woods, "I'm currently receiving professional help." Okay, that's good. Officer acquitted in shooting death of Philando Castile. Wow, I watched the video of that, and maybe you can watch it too online. And he was acquitted, but he was also fired from the police force on the day that he was acquitted. And when you watch the video, it would seem that this man didn't need to die. The officer could have handled that differently. I think better police training and education, especially for CCW holders, and most police, I would say the vast majority of police officers are not threatened by CCW holders, from concealed carry holders. But in this case, a black man was stopped for a traffic stop, broken tail light or broken brake light or something like that. And when the officer goes up to tell him about it, you can hear the driver saying in a calm voice, informing the officer that he is carrying a gun. And the officer says, okay, don't reach for it. Then something happens in the car that we cannot see. And apparently the officer says that he thought the man was reaching for his gun. And so he starts shooting, and I think he shot 7 shots into the man. And the driver's dying words were, "I wasn't trying to reach for my gun." So I don't know what kind of a hand movement the driver did. I think always when we are stopped by a police officer, it's always a good idea to keep our hands on the steering wheel. And it's if we're going to go for our driver's license and insurance in our back pocket or something, then tell the officer that that's what we're doing or something like that. In my own case, for that reason, I actually started carrying. I'm left-handed, so I carry on my left side, and I've always had my wallet on my left side. After I started carrying, I put my wallet on my right side. For this very reason, because and maybe that's a good idea, tell the officer that the gun is on my left side, but my right side, so I'm going to go for my wallet on my right side, and that's where my license is. And maybe that is a good idea, not only for black people, but for white people as well, and for Asians and others. But watching the video, I got the impression that the this particular police officer could have used more training on how to deal with this kind of a situation. A man is dead, another man's career is gone, and he'll have to live with this situation for the rest of his life. Former player Ryan O'Connor admits, "I'm gay and used football as a beard." Rush Democratic Party has become the largest hate group in this country. Yep, that's true. CNN's Tapper, Trump empirically worse and more opaque than Obama. When you say Democratic Party has become largest hate group in this country, let's include, places like CNN, and also the Rhinos as well. They're all members of that hate group as well. U.S. Senator demanding Kellogg explain mass layoffs. U.S. fighter jet shoots down armed drone in Syria. Warm beer atrocity shines light on companies selling tours to fund safe North Korea. Franken, the president might be gullible when it comes to China. Al Franken, thanks for that advice. Your advice has worked out really well so far. Right. Okay, let's take a break now. Back for our final segment.
Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology, it's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Carr Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry, Carr Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Carr Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit carr.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise. We speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Wednesday, June 21st, 2017. We're in the 8th year of Chungi, 5th month and 27th day by the heavenly calendar. I want to go into an article, this final segment about Jeff Sessions and his attempt to reduce violent crime. This is a Breitbart article. Jeff Sessions vows to counter rise in violent crime, launches National Public Safety Partnership. So immediately this headline rings some warning bells for me. Another government program to fight crime. You know, because all the government programs in the war on crime have worked so well so far. Well, let's go see what he's doing. And Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced the launch of a new law enforcement assistance program, the National Public Safety Partnership, as he kicked off a national summit on violent crime Tuesday. Sessions touted the program as part of the fulfillment of President Donald Trump's February executive order aimed at reducing crime. Turning back the recent troubling increase in violent crime in our country is a top priority of the Department of Justice and the Trump administration as we work to fulfill the president's promise to make America safe again, he said in a statement accompanying the launch. The new program comes on the top of an interagency task force and several new prosecutorial guidances, and sentencing memos as a part of Sessions' DOJ's overarching focus on violent crime. In his prepared remarks opening the National Summit on Crime Reduction and Public Safety in Bethesda, Maryland, the Attorney General outlined the problems these initiatives aim to tackle. Nation's violent crime rate is rising, he said. In many of our urban areas, this increase is staggering. 2015, we as a nation suffered the largest single-year increase in violent crime rate since 91 and the largest jump in the murder rate since 68. The preliminary data for the first half of 16 shows further increases, with larger cities seeing an average increase of murders of nearly 22% compared with the same period the year before. Spike violent crime is not happening in every neighborhood or city, but the trend is real and should concern us all. It must not continue. And so then he talks about his program. This program will use data-driven, evidence-based strategies and draw upon the expertise of people in the Department of Justice as well as others. Based on local needs, PSP program will provide two complementary but separate tiers of help. Diagnostics teams and operation teams. Diagnostic teams will assess the local factors driving increased violent crime and will help local leaders develop strategies to address those factors over a period of up to 18 months. Operations teams will provide rigorous training and coaching over a 3-year period. They will help the communities form a lasting coordination structure among federal, state, local, and tribal law enforcement agencies and prosecutors. Among other things, operations teams will provide enhanced crime trend analysis and comprehensive gun crime intelligence programs. Sessions' address also included remarks on his hallmark topics of aggressive immigration enforcement, support for law enforcement, and efforts to combat transnational criminal gangs. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein offered his support for the effort to bring an order agenda of Trump administration to fruition, etc. Okay, initially include 12 major cities: Birmingham, Alabama; Indianapolis, Indiana; Memphis, Tennessee, Toledo, Ohio, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Buffalo, New York, Cincinnati, Ohio, Houston, Texas, Jackson, Tennessee, Kansas City, Missouri, Lansing, Michigan, and Springfield, Illinois. Do you notice any city missing there? Birmingham, Indianapolis, Memphis, Toledo, Baton Rouge, Buffalo, Cincinnati. There's only one C city there. Cincinnati seems to be the only C city there. I think they made a mistake. They skipped over Chicago. Chicago, come on. What's happening? You know, we're hearing all about how Chicago murders are out of control. But Chicago is missing there. I guess Chicago doesn't need this help. They can do it on their own. Well, let's see. Partner sites are selected through a process that considers both quantitative and qualitative measures in consultation with United States attorneys and DOJ law enforcement officers. I'd like to know why Chicago didn't make the list. That's what I want to know. And Los Angeles. Is Los Angeles not on the list? And Los Angeles not on the list? New York is not on the list. But especially the absence of Chicago is puzzling to me. I'd like to know why Chicago is not on the list. This article does not explain that. The partnership's website explains that each of the cities participating in the operations approach will assign a DOJ law enforcement champion to help navigate access to federal resources. In fact, even Chicago asked for federal help, didn't they? And yet they're not on this list. I'd really like to know how that came about. This program for federal law enforcement assistance comes to these cities as Sessions DOJ seeks to choke off more traditional Justice Department grant programs to so-called sanctuary cities. Those efforts are ongoing but have encountered obstacles in the courts. Maybe, I don't know, is Chicago a sanctuary city? I don't think so, is it? Maybe it is. Maybe that's why it's not on the list. But my point here is that, they talk about data-driven, all right. So let's take data. Let's data-driven, evidence-based strategies. Let's take data on gun ownership and crime rates, and see how that drives our strategy. And I think we have another government program that is intended to get the federal government more involved in local law enforcement, and that can't be good. The war on crime is not going well, and he admits it. And then, so instead of relying more on private citizens, they're going to beef up more the police forces and to get the federal government involved in that. And I don't think that's the way to do it. In the Choniguk Constitution allows all citizens to carry weapons, and the vision is that this will be police militia, so that the law enforcement, the first line of law enforcement, will be the private citizens who are not paid by the federal government or by the local government, and that the private citizens will deal with crime. So that if a criminal tries to rob a bank, for example, then there will be people in that situation who are armed, concealed carry, and that they've been trained, of course, because if you're going to carry a gun, it makes sense that you get training. I know some people right now are carrying guns without proper training, and that's also very foolish. I saw one video of one woman who was in a barber shop with her child, and the barber wasn't doing the work fast enough, and so the woman pulls out a gun and tries to get the barber to hurry up her son's young son, maybe 10 years old or something like that, trying to hurry up with the cutting the hair, and threatens the barber with a gun. And she claims, I have a permit to carry this gun, so I can do this. Other people in the shop are saying, "Are you crazy? Put that thing away." But she says, "No, I have a concealed carry permit, and so I can do this." Well, no, I mean that's really stupid. That's just completely crazy and stupid. So obviously, this woman had not received the proper education or training for carrying a gun. I don't think that education and training should be a condition to carry a gun. I think that people should be smart enough to get that on their own. Anybody with a half a brain is going to get that training. I started carrying, and I got training, and I got education, and it's available. You don't have to necessarily pay for it. There's a lot of training can be received from friends or relatives, and also there's a lot of YouTube. There's a YouTube channel that's been very helpful to me, and it's called what is it? The initials are ASP. I can't remember the full name of it. And there are other places that you can get training. But certainly in the Cheonryukuk, people will be trained, will have received training, and then they will be able to be the first line of defense against a crime. And we would hope that is the direction that Jeff Sessions was going. But Sessions is also want to strengthen the federal effort on the drug control, and that also is an area that should be done in the private sector. Right now, the United States has the highest rate of incarceration of any country in the world, including China. And a lot of that is a drug-related crime. A new approach is for crime, and a new approach is required for drugs, but it does not involve further involvement by the federal government if it's going to be successful. All right. Sorry about the first hour for the people on the live broadcast, but you can go back and watch the video. And thank you for everyone for joining. And we'll be back tomorrow morning. Let's see. Tomorrow morning is Thursday, and I believe I will be standing in for the King once again tomorrow morning, because he'll be leaving for Denver, or not for Denver, but for Colorado. And so please join us again tomorrow. And we'll go through the REMAs and the Cheonryukuk news again tomorrow. All right, thank you, and have God bless. Have a good day. God bless, Godspeed, and may His kingdom come.